So let me just check on my Facebook page. Hi, everybody. If we're live, I'll just say hello. Let me just check. Everything is good. Wonderful. Hello. Hello, everybody. I'd love you to give a warm welcome to my guest today, Edwina Murphy-Droomer. Edwina is a diet and lifestyle mentor and also qualified in naturopathy and functional nutrition, as well as many other assets, many other things that you do. I mean, it's fantastic. And I've recently met Edwina because I was a guest on the League of Extraordinary Mothers. This is a new show that Edwina has, you've developed it from the onset, and it is fantastic. You've got the most amazing guests on. I just love the whole concept. It's a really simplified version of things. So welcome.
Thank you so much. And you know, this series is new, but the show's actually not new. This is the second series. So we did one earlier in the year that was for mums with teenage girls. That was phenomenal. It was such a success. It was lovely. So that inspired get back.
That's fantastic. For teenage girls, that's amazing. So nutrition and just nutrition.
You know, we looked at everything, you know, exposure to pornography and, you know, definitely nutrition. We did do a lot on hormones. Obviously, that's a big one with our teenage girls, and you've touched on that in this series as well. But yeah, we looked at lots and lots of different aspects. But after we finished that, I asked everyone what they wanted to learn about next, and this topic of food just seems to keep coming up. It's still causing so much confusion.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It does. And as I was saying to you earlier, it can be so confusing for some. You know, for us, because we live it. Yeah. And we're exposed to it every single day, and it just becomes part of your life. But as I said to you a moment ago, when I was talking to my financial advisor, and I said sometimes numbers and spreadsheets, and I have saving and spending and all that kind of thing, it just seems so overwhelming. Yeah. And she just said, take a step back. She said, also your clients would feel like that with food, and you kind of realize that you do need to take it back to that simple step, those simple changes, simple tweaks, and not make it into this huge thing, because I think that's why shows like this are so important, to make people out there that realize that it can be simple. Yeah. And it's important at the same time.
Yeah, well, it's really important that we take the fear of getting it wrong out of it and the overwhelm out of it. And that is really the sole purpose behind this series. There's so much now about, you know, we've got this one-eyed kind of religion about whether you're paleo or vegan or vegetarian or raw. Everybody has this heartfelt belief that the track that they're on is 100% right. And I know, because I've been there. I did vegetarian for 20 years. My dog's just knocking at the door now. I hope that's not going.
Oh, I can't hear. Knock, knock.
Yeah, but you know, and so with this series, what I wanted to do is go, let's all start by going back to the basics. It's real food. You know, it's real food at the end of the day, regardless of which path you choose to take that. If we can just start by getting everybody to eat real food again, that is a big win. That's got the power to turn around the health of a generation. And that sounds like a bumper sticker, but
you're absolutely right. And I think it's really important for us to actually emphasize the fact that it's not one diet fits all. It's not, you don't have to be vegan, you don't have to be paleo, you don't have to be in a ketogenic. It's about finding whole foods and about going back to basics, and then staggering it. And if you want to experiment with different diets and you want to try different things because you like trying different things in the kitchen, or you feel like having a vegetarian month or week, that's fine. But knowing that being a vegan does not necessarily make you healthier than if you're a meat eater, and vice versa. It's really about how you do it, and also mindset as well. You know, if you're feeling tense, or if you're feeling worried, or if you're feeling fearful, that healthy food is probably actually not going to do what it needs to do. It's not going to absorb. It's not going to give you the vitality that you need.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, in the first, I keep talking about these themes that come up. I think there's, you know, the universe kind of, we flow from one thing to the next. And in our first series, anxiety was just, everybody was talking about anxiety, and it's still a massive problem. But this series is all about, stress. Even though it's supposed to be about food, we keep coming back to this idea that particularly as mums, we're just so stressed, we're so exhausted, and it doesn't matter how much beautiful food we throw at us or how many yoga classes we do. If we don't work out a way to sort out this stress, then the other pieces of the puzzle just can't be as strong.
Well, actually, that's interesting. So when it came to everyone that you spoke to, and stress was like this running theme, what advice do people have, especially if you're a busy mom? Because like you say, you can do meditation classes or yoga classes, but that's kind of throwing more at yourself, throwing more at the day. So what were some of the things that your guests were saying, particularly the ones that are mums and also, have these huge schedules?
Look, I think the phrase that stuck in my head, and I'm just trying to think who said it, but it might have been Jules Galloway, but we have this idea that we always have to be doing something. So if we're stressed, then we have to do something to fix it. And we live in this kind of doing mindset rather than just being. And ever since I heard that, it's really stuck in my head, and I notice it throughout my days. I had a whirlwind trip to the States while I was putting this whole show together, and then back, and the jet lag, and I was like, right, I need to lie on my bed for 10 minutes. And I literally, I set an alarm for myself, and I couldn't lie there for 10 minutes, Naomi. It's mad. I'm so busy.
You're just thinking.
And I just can't. I couldn't stop for 10 minutes. And it was just like this alarm bell for me that was like, this needs some attention. So what I am finding that I'm putting more and more and more into practice, and I actually did a Facebook Live about it today on my page, was how you do something is how you do anything is how you do something. No, I've just got to back myself all mixed up. But we just need to, it's that mindfulness thing, how we approach everything. We just need to be more mindful about what we're doing, whether it's brushing our teeth, whether it's putting a meal together, whether it's folding the laundry. It all sounds really mundane, but the more we can kind of put attention to what we're doing, rather than, as mums, we've always got our head 10 steps in front. If we can just kind of bring the focus back. And I think, if we keep the topic to food, the more we're going to get from our food if we actually stop, notice what we're eating, think about why we're eating it. So how much nourishment are we getting from it? How much love have we put into putting this meal together, rather than just pulling a packet open and eating something just for the sake of, it's 12 o'clock, it's lunchtime, I've got to eat something. Okay, what do I need? Do I need energy this afternoon? Then I'm going to need some protein, and I'm going to need some, fat. And if I just have carbs, it's going to be a short spike of energy and I'll drop again. It's just these little tweaks. The more mindful we are, we're going to digest it better. I mean, this is all your area of expertise, and I can just talk and talk because I'm so passionate about it all. But, if we can just slow down, then everything starts to come together.
Yeah, I think that mindfulness around the eating, we talk about it a lot, and I think people don't understand the importance of that. And like you just touched on, sometimes you can find yourself just in the fridge, just chomping on something, and it is that, so everything's so automatic, this automatic thing, automatic that, go to the fridge, or automatic you buy a snack at the supermarket that you eat in the car, in the car park, or in the car driving home. It's just all this automatic stuff. So becoming more aware of this, and actually just feeding your body when it needs to be fed, and sitting down, even if it's just for 5 minutes, instead of it just being this automatic thing.
Those triggers, I call them, are enormously seductive. So whether it's every time you stop to fill up with fuel, you buy a chocky bar, or just because you've, there's so many triggers in our day that we, it might be that when you go into the kitchen at night to make dinner, you always pour a glass of wine. You don't really think about it. It just happens. And if we become more and more aware of those triggers, that's when we can just kind of shift them a little bit.
That's a good one. I'm going to write that down and just put that in the automatic triggers. So yeah, becoming aware, go through your week and just become aware of a couple of those automatic triggers through the week. I think that's a really good bit of advice. It's kind of easy and simple.
Yeah, and it does make a big difference. And I think breakfast comes up over and over again, because I asked all the speakers for different inspiration around breakfast, but because I think this is one that, and I know you would see this in clinic, is one that people struggle with. And the idea of cereal and milk is just so ingrained in how we do everything. It's a big shift to go to a cooked breakfast for many people, but it's a trigger. It's we don't have to eat. We can eat dinner for breakfast. It doesn't have to be, and I think that is a trigger. It's just that it's almost, I think, it's the psychological attachment to it. They put thousands of dollars worth of research into the sound that a lipstick makes when you open it, because it triggers something.
Wow. I knew that they put lots of money in cereal to make it crunch more.
Yes. And they do exactly the same thing with our breakfast cereal, or with all our processed foods. But the sound the packet makes when you open it, you would be amazed at how much research goes into making all those things addictive. It's quite fascinating.
Wow. And I think also to realize that it does take, we were talking about when I came on your show, we do the little introduction, talk about ourselves, and it got me thinking about the first change I made. And the first change I made was, it must have been in 2002, the first change I made, and that was going from the breakfast that I was having. I can't remember how bad it was, and I just switched out to yogurt and some kind of muesli with nuts and seeds. That was kind of like that first switch. Or I went from wholemeal bread with some peanut butter on, or something like that. That was my first switch in 2003. So and it's taken me into today. Anything can be breakfast, from leftovers, pulled pork, an egg, a green smoothie, all these sort of things, but so many different things. So it does take that kind of time. But and then once you get used to it, things can be easier and also quicker as well. When I say cook breakfast to some people, they kind of, I don't have the time, but you learn how to kind of do it effectively.
Yeah, you do absolutely. And any change that we make just takes a bit of extra time initially until we set ourselves up. But really, at the end of the day, if you are that strapped on time, you can always boil some eggs the night before to have, with some veggie sticks, and that's a grab and go if you really that time poor.
What was from this show that you did? Was there a very bizarre breakfast? Did anyone have the most unusual? No, it was all quite.
I had a laugh, because I was thinking as I went through, I need to start buying shares in organic eggs. Everybody said eggs. It was quite hilarious.
Wow. Yeah, eggs. I mean, it's easy, healthy, simple, but also cost effective. I mean, you can get really great organic eggs for $5 or $10, as opposed to if you're buying some really good quality bacon, that's around your $15 mark for. That would last you just a couple of meals.
Yes.
So it's handy if you want to do something cost effective. Eggs definitely are the way to, and you want them to be organic. Eggs are the way to go.
I can go up to our local farmers market here in Torquay and get trays of eggs. I think it's about 2.5 dozen, and it's so cost effective. It's really. And we have different co-ops. I'm part of a co-op here in Torquay, and they bring in eggs, and we get all our pantry things to stock with, and I think I pay $5.50 for a dozen organic eggs.
It's good. Yeah, no, that's good. What do you think's been driving this? What do you think's been the biggest driver between people wanting to become more aware? Do you think it is just social media, Facebook and Instagram? There's more communities, or is there something deeper that's driving people to want to learn more about food and become more aware and go back to real food?
The conversation is happening more and more because we're getting sicker and sicker. That's I really do think it's as simple as that. And mums talk, whether, when we've got our kids in the minor or, mostly older now, but those primary school years when you're, getting kids to prep and in the early years, mums catch up, they talk, and every classroom is full of children with severe food allergies and all sorts of, I had a camp form come home from my youngest son the other day, and the medical form and the space that they make available to fill out medications, I was just looking at it horrified.
Gosh.
And it is just the levels that it's growing at is so fast. It's so fast. And it is our diet and lifestyle choices. It simply is. And people are becoming more and more aware of that. But then they've got to wade through all the conflicting information that is coming from whether, mainstream and allopathic, and then, there's it doesn't matter which way you choose to go, there's somebody there that will tell you it's wrong.
Well, yeah,
there really is. There is. And so, that is the point behind this series, is just to get back to that real food message. Start where you are, start with the simple steps. And, if you want to be eating, carbs, that's fine. Look at the carbs that you're eating and get the best possible quality that you can. There's lots of gluten-free options, or wholemeal rather than white, whatever it is, just taking steps towards the best possible quality. The closer it is to what nature actually provided, the better.
Just that next step. And here's the thing, and this is why it is confusing, because things do change as well, especially when there's huge nutritional dogmas, when you're saying definitely don't eat this is the healthiest, this will cure this. And we know, I know from when I first started studying, and you as well, soy was a health food.
Oh yeah.
Soy was a health food. Soy milk, soybeans, tofu, it was seen as a health food. And we know otherwise. Now, it was okay. It would be okay for people to have the odd bit of soy, but this is where the problem arises. It's when we say soy is a health food. So what do people do? They have so much of it every single day, and it kind of then turns it into an anti-health food.
Absolutely. I say a superfood, and I stole this from Cindy O'Meara. A superfood is what you grow in your backyard. There's no food miles. You know that there's nothing sprayed on it. It's as fresh as it can possibly be. That's a superfood. So if you can grow some herbs, some greens, whatever veggies will grow in wherever you live, that's a superfood.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I love that. Just before we move, I wanted to ask you a bit more about yourself. For those of my listeners that don't know you, I'd love to know your story, because you have done so much in terms of, and you've got lots going on, and you've got a really great business model. So I'd love to know a little bit more about you.
Look, I where do I start? How far back do I go? I think the core reason why I do what I do, and my absolute passion, is helping mums to feel the best they can possibly feel, so that they can pass that knowledge on to their daughters. And it is about setting our girls up to launch themselves into life with confidence. And when I look, I'm 46, and when I talk to my girlfriends, when I look at the people that I work with, and this endless confusion about the really foundation, the basics that we need to have in place in order to support our health and happiness, so our physical and mental health. It is the basics. It's how we fuel our body. It's how we sleep. It's our connection, real life, not social media, real life connection to our communities. It's getting ourselves out under the sun. It's all those things are the really foundation, important things that we seem to have somehow moved away from. So we've, there's lots of fear around food. We're scared of the sun. We're, like,
oh, I know.
There's all these things that have thrown us off track. And, my passion is to bring it back to that. And, why? Because I got everything wrong. As a teenage girl, I was in boarding school and I had a very poor diet. I became very, very overweight. My self-esteem was appalling, and I suffered from what I glibly term as not good enough syndrome. Like I just wasn't good enough at anything. And so I became an avid studier. So I did, naturopathy. I've done all this study, but I've always had this kind of not good enough syndrome thing going on, and which stopped me from working with people confidently. I always felt like I didn't quite know enough. And anyway, then I had 4 children. And as I watched, I ended up, my husband and I separated when my youngest was just 5 months old. So I had 4 children under 8 that were suddenly 100% my responsibility. And I threw myself into that role with all my heart. And as they grew, I was looking at these children who were vital and healthy. And I'm not suggesting that we didn't have hiccups. Of course we did. Things go wrong. But I started to realize that I'm actually, I kind of know a couple of things and I'm getting a few things right. And, my kids haven't had antibiotics and they don't have painkillers and, all the things that other children were struggling with. I had found ways to do things a little bit differently just through our foundation life skills, just through how we ate. And I was very fortunate that I had done naturopathic study to support that knowledge beforehand. And now my passion is just to pass that on to other mums, because I want other mums to take back that confidence for themselves in how they look after themselves and how they raise their children, because we've come to a place where we have lost that confidence and we outsource everything. So every time there's a sniffle or an earache or, mental health, whatever is going wrong, we immediately rush out to expert. And, as a naturopath, Naomi, it doesn't matter how many, you would know, it doesn't matter how many beautiful supplements and things that we add in. If the foundations aren't there, if we aren't getting enough sleep, if we aren't getting the right food, then all those beautiful supplements won't work as well. We need to get the foundations strong, and then when we need a bit of extra help from our beautiful naturopaths, then they work really well. Did that work?
Yeah, look, that makes so much sense. And I mean, I love that in the respect for my clients, the clients that I see a few different types of clients. I see lots of mums, but like I was saying to you earlier, I see a lot of teenage girls come and see me, and the hormone issues can start from such a young age. And people don't realize they can have hormone issues from 4, 5, 6 or 7 simply because of diet, or even just being in a hugely stressful environment. So I think understanding the foundations, sleep, whole foods, just your environment, and just things like, like you said, getting out in the sun, grounding, that kind of thing. We've forgotten that. And it was actually recently, it's such a simple thing, going out and grounding. And I realized for my own health, sitting at my computer all day, trying to be healthy, eating all the right foods and taking all the right supplements, and thinking, why am I not feeling optimal? Why am I not feeling 100%? And it was simply just that I hadn't been out and grounded myself as much as I should be. So it's so sad that I have to actually kind of write that into my diary, and I'm tracking it now. I'm actually tracking it on an app so I can see daily and weekly. I have to, so I can see that I've actually spent enough time outside.
Yeah, well, you're not alone. I think most of us have to do that now, and it's just the lure of technology. And what we're doing here, it's amazing that we can have these conversations and share them, because I know that it is empowering to other mums, just as much as I love tuning in to other people's conversations. We couldn't do it if we didn't have this wonderful technology. But there is the downside. There is a downside to it. And for somebody like me, whose work really is all online, most of my clients don't live anywhere near me, so a lot of our consultations happen this way. I can spend easily, I can look up and I've been sitting here for 4 hours. It really happens quite regularly. So setting that little timer is a great tip. That's awesome.
Yeah, the timer's good. And I've actually, and even I was looking at some research on whole foods and foods like rosemary. So organic rosemary that you've grown in the garden. Actually, that helps to negate EMF. So just, yeah, it's amazing. So these foods, these simple herbs and spices that are full of antioxidants, and that one in particular helps negate sort of Wi-Fi and EMF.
So eating it.
Yes.
Now that's interesting. Oh no, that's a golden tip.
It's good. So the world knows, nature knows what we need, and so there are things out there, and that's why whole foods in this modern day, whole foods are going to be so much more important because of being exposed to electricity and Wi-Fi, and even more so now.
How do we get more rosemary in? I'm thinking a lamb roast.
Yeah, I now put it on absolutely everything.
Yeah.
I'm trying to put it on as much. I mean, it's a lovely herb. I know people use I'm not sure if the study would be the same for diffusing it. I'm not sure if you diffuse it in the environment. I haven't seen that. It's more internally, and I'm not sure if you could put it on an oil or something like that.
Yeah. I think it's quite a strong herb. It's quite pungent.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I'm going to have to get my thinking cap on as to how
more
to
ways.
write that into diet more. Yeah.
I saw a great recipe for I think it was a chia pudding actually that had it was a berry one, and that had a little bit of rosemary, a little bit of flavor. Yeah,
I might have to share that under this.
Yeah, I'll have a look for that.
Yeah, perfect.
So getting back to this show, I mean, you've got some amazing guests on this show. So you've met some amazing people along the way, and just I can imagine that they've all been incredible source of wisdom.
Yeah.
What were a couple of the biggest takeaways from doing this and the guests? It was the stress and just and kind of just and.
Do you know, I think my biggest takeaway, and it's Cindy O'Meara again, who has, she's been a mentor of mine for many years. So, but every time I listen to her, I learn something new. And she'd just come, when we did her interview, she'd just come back from Africa. And the message that I had quite firmly implanted in my brain was that we really needed to give a lot of focus to eating like our ancestors did, because our microbiome is set up that way. So depending on where your ancestry is from, you may have a diet that's more meat-based or more vegetarian-based or whatever that might be. It looks now like our microbiome is actually far more adaptable than we first thought, and really we can shift the way we're eating, and our microbiome will work with that. So if I got plucked out of Australia and went and lived with an African tribe whose main source of food was from meat that they had good access to, and the odd, tubers and other things, only a few carbohydrates, then I would actually adapt to that relatively quickly and would be very healthy for it. The only thing we cannot adapt to, our microbiome does not adapt to, is modern food. That I think that is a really big takeaway, and that goes back to what we've been talking about, Naomi, and that, let's not get so fixated with vegan being right or paleo being right or whatever, this whole right and wrong thing. What is right is real food.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's interesting about the microbiome, because it's hard. I think people then get stressed because I think, how far back do I have to, which ancestors are you talking about? Are you talking about my Irish ancestors in the 1600s that lived on potatoes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or further, so I think that's easy. And you're right, just that adapting. And I think that's why when people don't have a food for a long period of time and they have it, say when people go, they give up wheat for a little while and then they have it, they feel a little bit more bloated when they have it. And it's just simply, the body not being used to it. We just had a question actually from Suad about, it's a hormone question. She actually asked, can boys be affected as well as girls? And actually, yes. So in this kind of modern day, we've got so many estrogens in our environment. We've got plastics, we've got toxins, weed killer, pesticides, that I've even seen young boys that have been estrogen dominant. So I think that's where we go back to whole foods, you know, the fiber, the vegetables, the herbs. So you're continually, their bodies are cleansing, and their bodies are then not having to take up the toxic load of refined foods and, you know, McDonald's and takeaways all the time. So it's really about, again, whole foods, lots of vegetables and herbs, and where you can, I mean, it's obviously everyone's different, but where you can, opt for, you know, free range organic. You know, if you can't, just wash the food yourself and with some vinegar, or and get the chemicals off. But I think, yeah, it does affect boys, so just to know that whole foods from a young age is the best way to go for hormone balance.
Yes, I think you know, you talked about things that I've taken away from this series. One thing that we talked about in our interview that I think is just such a critical topic of conversation is this idea that some symptoms of ill health are normal. We've normalized, you know, painful periods and bloating and all these things, and rather than seeing it as a signal from the body that we can actually address and turn those symptoms around so that they're not there, we tend to pop a pill. So it's like putting a Band-Aid on it. And I think that, you know, you did a great job of addressing that. Particularly, I put in our email for your interview to get the teenage girls to tune into this as well, because it's just so important that we don't spend our lives thinking that these symptoms of ill health are actually normal, because they're not.
And it can be something as serious as, you know, severe pain to simply fatigue. You know, fatigue, you shouldn't be feeling that fatigue all day. I used to think it was normal to get UTIs. I thought it was normal to be fatigued and normal to be, you know, severely depressed around my period. Yeah. And to me, that was just, oh, this is how it's meant to be. Yeah. So to know that you can do things to come out of that and create, yeah, that new normal, your vibrant health, your vibrant self. Yeah.
Love it.
Oh, wonderful. And quickly, so what's the breakfast that you do, or what would be your go-to as you asked everybody else?
Oh dear, I'm so reluctant to say eggs, but it's just it is quick and easy. And I make scrambled eggs every morning. I pull parsley out of my garden, so that's my superfood. I often cut a bit of goat's milk feta into it, and I use a coconut milk, the Pure Harvest coconut milk I love. So that's the scrambled eggs, and then we'll have a nice big salad with that. So mixed dark green leafies, and I'll make sure there's some coloured vegetables in there, and also always some sulfur-rich veggies for our detoxing. So be that mushroom or onion or garlic or So, and we usually have a side of, I like kimchi for our fermenteds. I love spicy, but the girls will eat that, but my son's not so keen on it. So he has a different ferment. It's got dill in it, and so that's
yum. And that would keep you satisfied for a long time. Especially with the coconut cream in that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. Most days I only eat twice a day. I get up at about 5:30, and then I have breakfast with the kids at about 8. And then I'm pretty well set until we eat dinner. But we eat dinner pretty early, so 5:30 or 6 o'clock. I really don't need, but I'll have avocado with my breakfast as well. So I load it up.
Yeah, it's good I think the two, as long as it's loaded up and you've got a lot going on there. I've started having my I've started having my dinner earlier, but on Sundays now I have my dinner really early. We sort of eat at around 3-ish, 3, 4, really big. Yesterday we had roast chicken with vegetables and some potato and a big plate, and then that's it. And I feel quite good eating at that time.
It suits me, but it's depending on people's activity levels and what they're doing, and it's okay to eat 3 times a day. It's not a rule. It's just do what suits you and suits your body.
Yeah. And I think looking out for those signs. So if you're eating, if you're grazing 5 or 6 times a day and you're feeling hungry, you're craving food and you're fatigued and you're needing the food, then maybe something's not quite right. And the same with if you're eating 2 meals a day and you're getting very hungry, or you're getting lightheaded, or you're getting moody, then just check in with yourself. What did you eat? Did it work for you? How do you feel? I think that's all we can do. Just keep checking in with how we feel. Physically, mentally, emotionally, and that gives us really good feedback to, was that meal right for us?
Absolutely. Just look at your body, it's telling you.
It's telling us all the time.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this was beautiful. This was such a wonderful chat, and I can see a few questions did come up, so I'll get to them. I think it was just on the hormones, but I just want people, so the League of Extraordinary Mothers, this is the show, this is your second show. Series 2, and this is airing at the moment. So there have also been some great guests. I think my interview's airing today, and then you've had other experts who have been interested and that have contacted you last minute to get involved. So wonderful. That says a lot for the caliber of you as an interviewer and the series itself. So well done.
Yeah, thank you. People can still be joining in. So the interviews only go out 1 per day. I did that very deliberately because we're all busy. And I know myself, when I sign up to a summit and I've got to fit in 3 interviews in the day, I just tune out altogether. It's too much. So I do very deliberately make them 1 per day. And then right at the very end, I just make all of them available again for another 3 days, so that if you've missed any, you can catch up. If you want to rewatch some, then that's the time to do it. I try to make it as easy as possible for people to stay on board with all of them. And for anyone that's watching from your audience that would like to catch your interview, it will be available again tomorrow. But if they sign up today, just shoot me a quick email and I'll give you access. We've got a Facebook group running. And once you've signed up, I can just give you access to that, and then you'll have immediate access to Naomi's interview.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much for making the time to come and speak to my crew on my Facebook page. I've loved it, and I'm going to catch up with the interviews. I do love the emails that you send out. It's very that you do a little bit of an introduction and just talk about the takeaways from each, so it's really easy and simple to actually see what you're going to get out of each interview. So I love that, and thank you so much for putting this whole thing together. I know how hard it is, and there's a lot of work. I know there's so much work, and I hope people understand the amount of work and time, and probably a little bit sleep deprived at times. But as you were saying, you absolutely love it because you're helping people and you've been getting emails. And if you can just help one person, I think that's beautiful.
It's phenomenal. At this stage, I'm getting so many emails every day from people that are just saying, oh my goodness, I can't believe. And it's those little light bulb moments. And it's just, once upon a time we would have sat around as a community of mothers and discussed these things. That doesn't happen anymore. So this is the modern age campfire discussion.
This is the community. Wonderful. Yes. Thank you so much, and I'm going to look forward to watching the rest of the interviews myself.
Thank you. Thanks so much for inviting me to do this. It's been really fun. It's nice to be on the other side.
Yeah, I bet. It's more relaxing to be on that side.
Thank you.
Oh, take care, and thanks so much for joining. And if anyone's got any questions for either of us, just pop them below, and we can get to them through the day.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Bye.